is big. NHL Insider Elliotte Friedman has dropped a huge report on the Connor Zary contract situation, and fans have mixed feelings. Depending on where you stand, this report either brings positive optimism that a deal will get done, or you're more skeptical that a deal will never, ever get done. We're going to get into all that and more in this video, but first I want to welcome you to Flames Digest. I'm Mark Griffith. If you're new around here and you love the Flames, make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the latest news, updates, reports, and rumors revolving around your Calgary Flames. We would love to welcome you to the Flames Digest family. Let's get into this F-bomb we have here. It's always nice when the Flames are mentioned in, I guess, the greater hockey media world. Obviously, Elliotte Friedman, one of the biggest names out there for sure. When he speaks about it, people listen. Whether you love him or hate him, you gotta be honest, you listen to him. But either way, he has come out with a new report here, and a great write-up from Ryan Pike as well. So he kind of writes up that the Flames and Connor Zary like each other, but have a disagreement on compensation from Friedman. And already just reading that headline, a lot of people will say, well, yeah, isn't that kind of why there hasn't been a deal struck all along? And that's completely fair. You can completely say that. We're actually going to get into some thoughts from the fans a little bit later in this video. But as we know, Connor Zary, as it stands, still hasn't signed. He's an RFA, so obviously he can't just sign anywhere. But a deal for some reason still hasn't, come to fruition. We've seen a lot of RFAs sign already. You think of guys like Coronato, Kevin Ball, and more. Why isn't a Connor Zary deal happening? Is it, because they don't like each other? Well, apparently they do. It's just totally compensation. It almost seems like, is it the term? Is it the money? I would lean towards it's probably the money, but again, let's get into this. So it's been a pretty quiet summer for the Calgary Flames. Yeah, general manager Craig Conroy has locked a few players up to new contracts, including Coronato, Ball, Frost, and Pospisil, but there's one piece of lingering contractual business before the 2025-26 season can begin. Restricted free agent Connor Zary, a first-round selection by the Flames in the 2020 NHL Draft. Zary just completed his entry-level contract and needs a new deal, but so far, the Flames and Zary's camp have remained at an impasse. In the most recent edition of the 32 Thoughts podcast, co-host Kyle Bukauskas asked Elliotte Friedman about the whole situation. This is the juicy part. This is what we care about. Let's get into the quote. So Bukauskas said quickly, "Do you have a read on another RFA out there and Connor Zary and the Flames and what the sticking point may be there?" Big question. This is what we care about. Friedman, he said, "I have just heard that the two sides just have been apart. So until that changes, again, I don't think this is a situation where the Flames don't like the player or the player doesn't like the Flames. As you've heard, it's a disagreement on, hey, if the term is X, this is what we think the number should be. The good news is that's starting to pick up. Business is starting to pick up." That is good. I guess that's the biggest update of them all, is that business is really starting to pick up a bit here. Hopefully that means Zary's side and the Flame side are talking a lot more than they have throughout most of the summer here, because let's be honest, training camp is right around the corner. So is obviously the preseason and the regular season. And if Zary doesn't have a contract, that'd be quite shocking indeed. But good to know that business is starting to pick up. And yeah, it's kind of obvious that, hey, if X is the term, Y is the money, but it seems like obviously that is what is the disagreement here on both sides. And it's interesting. There's so many different ways this could play out in terms of both term and the actual salary amount, which we'll get into a little bit, but let's finish off the article here. But while teammate Matt Coronato avoided injury in 2024-25 and was able to really showcase what he can bring to the Flames, Zary wasn't quite so lucky. Maybe why Coronato got a contract so far and Zary hasn't yet. Zary began the season playing quite well, but a pair of scary incidents, a knee-on-knee collision with Anaheim's Drew Helleson in January and another with Dallas's Mikko Rantanen in March, kept him out of the lineup for big chunks of the season and really disrupted his momentum, with his offensive production ending up slightly behind 2023-24. I'd say it was quite a difference. Hopefully the two sides can come to terms on a deal soon, and Zary can have a full training camp before the regular season begins on October 7th. I absolutely love October 7th. Not only is that my father's birthday, it's also my fiance's birthday. What a day. And you're telling me that that is when the regular season begins as well. It might be the best day of all time. But we can sit here and talk about, the he say, she say, what certain reporters are saying all about it, but let's get into what the fans think. So what can Craig Conroy do? And the best place to look is the fan base, because they care the most about the situation, monitoring it the most out of anyone. So here are actually some comments from that article posted by Ryan Pike. Now, Ron says Zary should accept a 2-year deal at $3.95 million per season. This way, both sides have to live with the results, and there will be more to work with for any possible long-term deal. Zary, Frost, Coronato as a line would complement each other's strengths and weaknesses collectively. Now, this is an interesting, point. This is total bridge deal, maybe a little bit higher money than what the Flames are probably shelling out. They're probably, in the mid-threes somewhere, whereas this is pretty much $4 million. But one person replied to this by saying he should accept it, but the Flames shouldn't offer it. 2 years sets him up to QO and walk. We have to have learned that lesson by now. Don't give away RFA leverage needlessly. Better $6 million over 1 year than 3 over 2. Better 8 over 1. The cap doesn't matter to us right now. Controlling Zary's and everyone else's RFA leverage does and is paramount. Now, this is obviously someone who has trauma from, I guess, the Tkachuk situation and other situations as well, where you hand out, kind of this bridge deal that leads them to unrestricted free agency and then they leave. So this person's saying we might as well, keep the leverage of what we want so we can still control them. I just don't think the player would ever agree to that. So kind of two different sides here completely of this entire situation going on right here, but both are interesting and honestly both are valid as well. Let's get into some more. So one person says Zary's best comparables are Shane Pinto and Jake Neighbors, who both signed for $3.75 million at 2 years. That said, Neighbors' starting cap hit was 3.93% of the salary cap and Pinto's was 4.26. So adjusted, Zary should be at $3.73 million to $4.5 million per year in this person's opinion. Pinto and Neighbors have both played a full NHL season and each have produced at least 20 goals in a season, which Zary hasn't done either, so asking for more would be getting greedy from Zary's side. $4.25 million by 3 years would be the max I'd offer just to get it done and over with. He's not worth the $5 million per year Marco Rossi just got by comparison either. And that's true. This is adding some comparables into it. I think a lot of people would argue that both Neighbors and Pinto might be better than Zary, but they've just had a better sample size in a way. I know Pinto missed a whole half season because of, the whole gambling scandal, but Neighbors is really good as well. Zary has the potential. He just obviously has gone through some injuries, so it's interesting to bring in the percentage of the cap as well. Now, one person adds another comparable right under this. So they say Ridley Gregg, taking 4 spots behind him, is close too. So Zary has played 117 games, has 27 goals and 34 assists for 61 points at 0.52 points per game in his NHL career. Gregg, on the other hand, has played 170 games, so quite a lot more. 28 goals, 41 points for 69 points, so slightly better in each category, but 0.41 points per game. The Ottawa Senators announced today the team has signed forward Ridley Gregg to a 4-year contract extension. That's not true. I swear this happened months ago. It happened in the middle of the season. I think it was January. So the Sens essentially signed Gregg to a 4-year, $3.25 million contract through to the 2028-29 season. So Zary is slightly better in this person's opinion. So $4 million by 2 years sounds about right, which is almost exactly what that other person offered. And again, we've looked at comparables in the past, and anywhere between the kind of 3.5 to higher 3s is fair for sure. But Zary might want to go for more just because of, the Flames cap situation and, RFA status for the future. And there's so many different, kind of levels to this entire situation, which is probably why it's taking so long. I know it was so much easier with certain players like Matty Coronato, even a Kevin Ball and stuff. But with Zary, it's interesting just because he wants to prove it more. The Flames need to see more, but you need to give out a contract in order to play. There's a lot of levels to it, but it's interesting overall. Last couple comments here. So one person says, Zary plays without fear. As such, he will get injured repeatedly. He is productive and inspirational when he can play. How to place a value on his contribution to the team is Craig Conroy's problem, not ours. I hope they can agree that Scary Zary is worth the risk. So interesting. Give him the contract even if he does play a game that could get him injured. Very interesting. Person replied by saying putting on 10 or 20 pounds of muscle should put an end to any durability issues. 20 pounds would make him about the same size as Backlund. And I mean, easier said than done to put on all that weight. But the other thing with Zary's injuries too is they were kind of freak accidents. It's not like they happened because he was smaller. So that's kind of an argument in Zary's favor. And one person replied to that, said, the difference between fearless and brave. Perhaps Zary needs to be a little braver and a little less fearless. Otherwise, he will be destined for an injury-plagued career, which is, I guess, a fair way to look at it based off last season. And overall, there's, again, so many different levels. The injury side, the salary cap percentage side, the comparable side, just the term and salary itself side. There's a lot going on here. You know, I'm sure Connor Zary's agent is playing a big factor in this as well. But either way, what do you think Zary will sign for, and do you think a deal will get done sooner than later? That's what it really boils down to. Now let's get into the comment of the day to wrap up this video, as we love to do here on the channel. It comes from yesterday's video, of course, and it comes from good old Guitar Memoir. And they said, I think we have already come to the same conclusion as Buckland. I just hope we get decent value. Obviously talking about Backlund, saying that essentially, yeah, Rasmus Andersson is going to get traded. No shock there. So as Mr. Buckland, as we like to call him on the channel now because of yesterday's video, yeah, we kind of got to agree with him there. Raz will most likely get traded, most likely during this season at some point before the trade deadline. A signing is not looking too imminent at this point. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to what you saw here today and have a wonderful rest of your day.